Okay, so one of the big changes in this year's study guide is that you need to be able to critically analyse or evaluate the impact that certain policies in this year's budget are going to have on our economic goals of full employment, strong and sustainable growth, and low inflation. So it's not enough to just know what the policies are, which we're going to talk about next year. You need to be able to analyse what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of budgetary policy as a way to try and achieve these goals. So that's really important, and we're going to talk about some of the impacts that, some of the weaknesses and strengths that budgetary policy can have in achieving domestic economic stability. So first things first, one of the benefits of budgetary policy is that both discretionary and automatic stabilisers have short time lags. So what I mean by that is that most discretionary policies impact aggregate demand quite quickly. So if we're in a trough and we want to stimulate aggregate demand, policies like lower tax rates and government spending can have a really quick impact on the level of aggregate demand, which is really good in terms of their ability to push us out of a trough really quickly and act in that counter-cyclical manner that they're trying to achieve. Same with automatic stabilisers. Automatic stabilisers work immediately. As soon as we're in a trough, incomes fall, employment falls, welfare starts to rise, and that should have a really quick impact on the ability for the budget to be expansionary. So this helps to reduce the magnitudes of peaks and troughs quite quickly and quite effectively. So the first benefit is they have short time lags. From the time that the policy is implemented to the impact that it has on the budget and growth is really quick. The second thing is automatic stabilisers don't create permanent deficits. So what I mean by that is that automatic stabilisers, when we're in a trough, yes, they will lead to bigger budget deficits. They'll lead to more expenditure and less revenue. But the good thing about that is that the cyclical component of the budget doesn't exist for a long period of time. It's not a permanent thing. It's not like structural tax cuts or anything like that that can lead to big long-term structural deficits. Most of these impacts of automatic stabilisers can be changed and improved quite quickly. So it shouldn't lead to a permanent structural deficit, which is really good because we can get back to surpluses quite quickly. So automatic stabilisers we can recover quite quickly, and therefore we can get back to surplus quite quickly. One of the main benefits of budgetary policy is that unlike monetary policy, which just changes interest rates, budgetary policy has a unique ability to target particular sectors of the economy. So what I mean by that is if there are certain industries that are suffering, like for example manufacturing or if there's issues in education and so on and so forth, they can target those industries directly via subsidies, via changes to the way they have to pay taxes. So if Australia is experiencing really strong growth in certain sectors of the economy, but weak growth in other sectors of the economy, the government can do things like subsidising tourism or promoting export development grants so that certain exports can become more competitive. The government has a unique ability through budgetary policy to target specific areas that need assistance, like health, like education, like preserving the environment. If that becomes something that they are focusing on more, they can help the elderly, they can help the homeless. The government, the main focus or strength of budgetary policy is its ability to target particular areas of weakness in the economy. They can also use things like excise taxes to curb alcohol consumption or cigarette consumption. If they wanted to completely eliminate cigarette production, they would have the power to potentially make it illegal. So it's a very versatile instrument that has the ability to target particular sectors of the economy. E.g., during the height of the mining boom, when tourism in the industry was suffering, they were able to give subsidies and export grants and assistance to the tourism industry. It can work fairly directly on aggregate demand. This one we sort of talked about a little bit in the last slide, but basically it's very effective in boosting aggregate demand quite quickly. Monetary policy can have less of an effect because sometimes when interest rates go down, people just use that extra money to pay off their debt. So interest rates can be ineffective because they don't really lead to increased consumption if people just decide to use the extra interest rate cuts to pay off their debt. Budgetary policy can often be more effective than that. Another example, another benefit, I wouldn't use this as your first example if you're getting asked for just examples of strengths or weaknesses. Another benefit is that budgetary policy can target a range of economic goals. Budgetary policy can be used to achieve full employment, by providing skills training or by lowering taxes so there's more spending. It can be used to achieve equity via lowering taxes for low-income earners, providing more assistance, providing more welfare. It can also be used for external stability. So by trying to employ contractionary policies, they can try and reduce the size of the deficit and help keep net foreign debt under control. They can also do things directly related to try and boosting export spending, so they can give export development grants, potentially subsidies to businesses. We don't focus much on external stability and equity in this chapter, but one of the benefits of budgetary policy is it can target all of the goals: equity, external stability, full employment, low inflation, and strong and sustainable growth. Monetary policy isn't effective at achieving equity or external stability, like budgetary policy. Other strengths of budgetary policy is that any policy goes through lots of parliamentary checks and balances. So any policy needs to go through both houses before it's approved. So it has to go through the House of Representatives, the lower house, and then the Senate. So it's unlikely that ill-advised, sort of dodgy or ordinary policies are likely to get passed through the Senate. So the budget is also open to public scrutiny. So anything that they do, people are going to scrutinise them for. So that can make them really accountable and transparent with their policies as well, because they know they have to do the right thing for society, otherwise they're not going to get re-elected. The other benefit of budgetary policy is, even though it's mainly a demand-side policy, it can also be used to target aggregate supply. So policies like lowering company tax rates can boost investment spending and boost supply in the long term. They can spend money on infrastructure and education. So these policies will allow for longer-term, low inflationary, sustainable growth, which can be good for employment and our living standards as well. So one of the other key strengths of the budget is that it can be used as a supply-side policy as well. Thank you.